Vanessa George and her co-accused Angela Allen both given indeterminate sentences this afternoon. That means they will not be released from prison until they are considered no longer to pose a danger to the public. The judge was very clear with both women this morning that he considered them a danger, that he was minded to impose an indeterminate sentence, and that would be in effect the only sentence that was justified by the crimes that these women have committed. Both women admitted on the 1st of October a string of child sex offences. Vanessa George, a 39-year-old nursery worker from Plymouth, pleaded guilty to 7 counts of sexually abusing young children in her care. These were just babies and toddlers. She admitted a further 5 offences of distributing indecent photographs. She was uploading these photos to the internet and emailing them to 2 people that she'd met on the internet: Angela Allen, a single mother from Nottingham, and Colin Blanchard, a married father from Bulwell in Lancashire. She admitted those offences. She admitted a further offence of making 124 indecent photographs of children. That gives you some idea of the scale of these charges. The sheer depravity is really difficult to put into words. The nature of the charges is too graphic to repeat, but these were the most degrading, the most depraved of assaults, and they were carried out on the most vulnerable of victims, on the babies and the children that Vanessa George was supposed to be looking after in the little Ted's nursery. The court heard today that at any one time there were 10 small children in what they called the baby room at that nursery, where Vanessa George was a member of staff. She'd worked there for 3 years, and she was seen as a very trusted, a very valued member of the team. She was happy, she was bubbly, nothing was too much trouble for Vanessa George, and she would greet a lot of the children with nicknames. She called people "my little princess." She was very popular with the parents at the nursery, but the prosecution told the court today that all the while she was taking the opportunity to abuse these very young children. She said she thought she'd taken photos of all but 3 of them, that she would choose them at random, that she didn't know their names, and that she would go for the babies because they were the easiest. Now, that is the real cruelty of this case, that for the parents of children at the nursery, they still don't know whether their children were abused by Vanessa George. Police have managed to narrow it down to an extent. From an original extent of possibly 300 families involved, they've narrowed that down to around 30 so-called high-risk families. But beyond that, they're not able to give those parents any certainty whatsoever as to whether their children are those in the photos. A lot of the parents have travelled here to Bristol to watch Vanessa George being sentenced. They wanted to look her in the eye to see that she was sorry, and a large number of them simply stared at her for the several hours that the case was being outlined this morning. But those parents have heard all of these very graphic details. They know what has gone on in these photos, and they just still don't know whether their child is one of those in the photos. And there were efforts made again in court today to try to get Vanessa George to come clean, to give details of the children that she's abused. That although she gave around 6 weeks ago, she came forward with a short list of some first names which she said were the children she'd abused. And I'm just hearing that Vanessa George has been given a minimum period of 7 years with that indeterminate sentence. So it will be a minimum of 7 years before she can even be considered for release. But the nature of that indeterminate sentence is such that she will not be released from prison until she is assessed no longer to pose a threat to the public, and specifically to children. But as I was saying, the real cruelty of this is for the parents who are here at court, sitting just feet away from Vanessa George and wondering whether their children are some of those that Vanessa George abused.